We're always improvising when we're speaking. Conversation is an improvisation. Imagine if we had to always quote Shakespeare or Winston Churchill or Martin Luther King in order to talk to one another. It would be rather stilted and dry, and we couldn't actually say a whole lot. We learn our native language and even second languages well enough so that we can exchange ideas and communicate and create sentences and structures on the fly. If we treat music as a language, my goal is that we should be able to do those same things with music. So let's look at how we can use the lens of language to look at music. How did we start to learn our language? We started as babies just making sounds. We had to learn how to make sounds, how to control our voice. All sorts of different sounds. At the organ, if you're going to improvise at the organ, you've got to know how the sounds are made. If you're going to play the trumpet, you've got to learn how to buzz your lips. You know, flute, clarinet each have their own embouchure. If you're playing a violin, you've got to learn how much pressure to apply to the bow. You have to learn how to make a sound. If you go and press down the keys and don't have any stops on, you don't make any sound at the organ. You pull out the tremolo, it doesn't make any sounds either. You know, you got to learn which sounds are available and how to control them. So, first up, we start by making sounds. Then, as we're learning our language, we slowly start, through imitation, forming words. Mama, papa, you know? We didn't start uttering complete sentences all at once. We started with just little words. So, if we approach improvisation music at the same time, same way, what are the words that we need to build? How do we create those sounds, connect those sounds together into words? In music, we can string them together as a melody, or we can stack them together as harmony. So we have two different ways of making words, musical words, a melody or vertical harmonies. So when we're starting to speak, we use simple words, single syllable, two syllable words. So when we start improvising, start with a single melody, one note, one syllable words. Then you could actually add in dyads, intervals, two syllables. You know, triads are three-syllable words. You can keep getting more and more complex sounds until, you know, you can end up with this super huge, long, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious sort of vocabulary that is useful at times, but also not useful at times. So from words, we start learning context. Colors, red, blue, green, objects, dog, cat, house. Then we start combining them together. Red house, blue car, green dog. I don't know about that one. So you learn that, oh, that doesn't work in the context. You haven't seen a green dog, you know. And also through context, you learn that it's green dog, not dog green. Because we're completely immersed in the language, hearing it all the time. So our musical context is the scales, the modes. They're what enable us to figure out, does this word order, melodic shape, make sense? It's when we violate the context that we hear there's a wrong note. We have violated the context. So take a simple sentence idea. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of dihydrogen peroxide. It doesn't belong in that context. They're perfectly legitimate words, but they don't fit in that context. So, and the same thing can go with if you start learning multiple languages. Ich habe everything vergessen. J'ai oublié alles. You know, I have alles forgotten. You know, if you start mixing German in with your French, with your English, people have a harder time understanding what you're saying. The same thing happens in music. If you start mixing styles and tonal vocabulary, it becomes harder to make a coherent sentence, to make a coherent statement, to communicate your thoughts clearly. So musical styles become our languages. No one learns Arabic, French, English, Chinese all at the same time. You learn one language, and then those skills as you learn one help you apply and learn another. So that I think it's really unreasonable as improvisers to expect us to improvise in the style of Couperin, Bach, Mendelssohn, Brahms, Reger, Messiaen, all at the same time. We didn't learn French, Russian, Arabic, Chinese all at the same time. Just learn one at a time. And be okay with that, because that's going to make our life easier as improvisers, and we're going to be less likely to scream. So as we explore and become comfortable with the sounds, we can explore ideas. These help us build up repertoires. Like, okay, this is a soft, calm sound. This is a loud, angry sound. You know, we can find those sounds and we can start to form words, placing sounds together so we can become more coherent. We learn chords, major, minor, you know, diminished, augmented, you know, what. So those chords become words that we can now learn how to say quietly. Car. 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 You know, if car is a C major chord, it can be this way, it can be this way, this way, this way. It can be you can do all sorts of things once that word is part of your vocabulary. So from there, we start piecing together larger and larger structures, making phrases. How do we say red car? How do we say red? You know, well, let's see. If car is a C major chord, red becomes a louder sound, whereas a yellow car might be. You can start to build and extend your vocabulary, creating larger structures. Even our musical form analysis borrows words from our language. Phrases, sentence, question and answer, antecedent consequent. If you think of them like language, you're just piecing the same ideas together that you do when speaking. You're just learning to do it with notes.